this is one of those many cases now that we're encountering where the administration says they have evidence, they haven't presented it in court, it hasn't been adjudicated, people haven't had an opportunity to counter it. And I think that's the fundamental question here. I mean, this man's case is actually pretty convoluted. But are we in a place now where the administration just says, well, trust us, and we'll figure it out later, or maybe we won't?
What's happening now is, first of all, if you are an immigrant and you commit a crime, you should be deported after going through a fair process. That clearly didn't happen here. And what the Trump administration is turning us into is a lawless regime that is disappearing people with no due process, with no fairness. Even people like this gentleman who there's no evidence that he was a member of a gang.
Was he here illegally?
And they admitted.
It's not a crime.
And they admitted that they should not have sent him to the prison. Why can't they go get him? If he was mistakenly sent there, then he can be sent back. We're the ones that asked El Salvador to take these prisoners who were rounded up completely without a process. Some of them had TPS. Some of them had been through the parole program. You know, Nicole and I are on the same side when it comes to fighting the Castro regime, but yet we're seeing the Trump regime basically disappear people because they're not able to deport people.
First of all, that's actually offensive, number one. Let's not compare President Trump to Castro regime.
When you're deporting people without a process,
that's going to be very bad for you when you go back to Florida and you got to face your constituents.
Very confident that my constituents don't want people deported without a lawful process.
Okay. First of all, was the guy here legally? Was he here legally?
He was.
He was here legally.
Yes.
Okay, so you had one individual. If he was here legally, I don't know what his status is. If it was a mistake, think about all the mistakes that the Biden administration made. That they'd allowed millions of people to come into this country unvetted, and that ended up killing. We had rape. We had all sorts of crime, drug trafficking, Lake and Riley. No.
But Congresswoman,
these are people that Joe Biden let in through his policies.
They were rounded up.
And you're going to criticize the mistake of somebody who is deported?
Respectfully, that is the definition of gaslighting. Because what we're saying is all five of us on this set tonight can look you in the eye and say that if you committed any of those crimes, then you should be deported immediately. You should serve your sentence and go home immediately.
Yes, but they were let in. That's the bottom line. You're more concerned about the one guy that was deported than the millions of people that were let in illegally that went on to wreak havoc in cities like mine.
First of all, I would love an argument that wasn't subject verb Joe Biden. That's first. Second,
I mean, he's the one who let him in. What do you want me to do?
Second, what we need here is an immigration process where we have, I think it's 4 million people who've already been adjudicated, slightly less than 4 million people, who we can round up and deport today, those people who committed crimes. That's second. Third, being in this country legally, you know what, it's not a crime. You know who said that? The United States Supreme Court. There has to be a due process element to this. There simply does. And so for individuals like this gentleman right here, who's a father, I'm not going to sit here and die on a hill and say whether or not he was MS-13 or not. I'm not trying to be on Fox News or Fox and 5 in the morning because I simply don't know the answer to that question. But what I will say is that he deserved a right of due process so that we can properly adjudicate that. But I'm not going to let you gaslight me or the rest of this audience. I'm not done. I'm going to finish the sentence and say that I'm sitting here advocating for people who commit crimes.
So hold on one second, because I do think I want to settle us on the actual issue here, because I think what he's asking, I don't think it takes anything away from what you're saying, that people who are criminals should be kicked out of the country. But why does that have to happen without due process?
What I'm trying to say is these guys are so outraged that one individual, whether he's here legally or not, we don't even know. Yes, it was a mistake, and it's terrible. If he was here legally and he was deported, that was wrong, and it was a mistake.
None of them
But look at all the people that were allowed to come in under the previous administration that were wreaking havoc in my city. I'm sorry, we had a murderer from Dominican Republic that was caught. You had another murderer in upstate New York that was caught on the street, walking around freely. We had drug traffickers, gang members, all sorts of stuff.
I don't know that this is a degree of outrage that is like greater than the outrage about those things. Because I do think that the question that is being asked here is whether there is a systematic effort to evade due process, which is, I mean, if you think about it, right, there are crimes that are committed. There's a process for convicting people and kicking them out. the Constitution allows people to have due process. And when you throw that out the window, then suddenly you're undermining more than just the statute. You're undermining the Constitution.